Hi students, how are you today? Okay, the current situation is very dangerous. The more all the classes we will discuss about it because novel coronavirus is the dangerous one. The virus were spreading to all over the world. In the case of Kerala, the virus will not controlled by the government, by the peoples. So what we do? Yes, we are awareing about that the spreading situation, and then what we do? We just keeping this social distancing. That is the main. That is the remedy one. Keeping social distancing and avoiding the touching of hands, the shake hands with other persons, and use the proper type mask, and you must wash your hands in proper way at just 20 seconds. That's the time of washing your hands, that is 20 seconds. And you may must stand your home. That means you just stay in your home. That is the safe. Okay. And if you a person with your family, the father, mother, etc. If any person or went to outside of the house and returned to home, and that person using the public the social travel systems, and that person going to one crowded area, and then some of the marriage functions, obituary functions, etc. After return to the home, that person will remove their dress and bath with soap in proper way in the outside of the house, and that clothes are washing, dipping in soap solution or Dettol and for sometimes, and you must wash and your body, and after this you are washing this your body and just entering into your house, and after some time, just sometimes, that person will not touch anywhere of that house, and he keeping sanitizer, he just used that sanitizer before touching the property of that house. Okay, that is the awareness programs of my class. Okay, okay, let's start our topic. In previous classes, we were discussed about the evolution, heredity and evolution, and some of more examples I just giving that time, and that class we are discussing about the chromosomes, DNA, genes, dominant trait, and then recessive trait, the homozygous, heterozygous, and then definition of the evolution. The evolution taking place, much more priority ways are here. In this topic, next we are discussing about the next topic. That is the next topic is the acquired and inherited traits. Acquired and inherited traits. But before that, the evolution, the definition of evolution may states some illustration. That illustrations is first one is, I repeat that illustration. In that case, the first situation is the group of red beetles. In the case of group of red beetles, group of red beetles. That means at that area, the number of red beetles are very large. The population of red beetles are very high, large. And the situation is one. All beetles during the reproduction takes place. Red beetles have a reproduction. Red beetles have a reproduction, and then color variation arises in this reproduction. That means the point is color variation. Color variation is occurred. In this time, color variation is occurred, and the situation is number one. The color variation is all the red beetles are red. All the red beetles are red. Most of the number is increased. Red beetles are here, and the one is green. One is green. We just discussed about the previous class in this time, in this situation, the illustration, and just recollecting the one. Look at that, most of the beetles, that organisms are red in color. But except one is green. That is the exceptional case. One is green, and all organisms are red in color. Okay. And then at that time, a crow flying towards the beetles. And then the crow standing upon the green grass at the top level of the earth. That means the outfield, the field. The crow saws all the red colored beetle. All the red colored beetle. Crow saw, and they began to eating that red colored beetles. But in the case of green, the green color, look at the surrounding system, the surrounding area. That is the green field. That green field is the greenish color. So this beetle have a green color. So the crow not see that green beetles. But in the case of that area, the number of beetles is reduced. Number is reduced. At area, the beetles number is reduced. And what happened there? The green beetles, they were cheated the crows. They were cheating crows because due to the presence of their color, that is green. And in this time, number of red is reduced. The green beetles is cheated the crow, and after we again and again reproduced, the green beetles were increased. The number of green beetles is increased. So look at that. This is the first evolution. In this time, the green field is filled with green beetles, because in this time the number of green beetles is more than the red beetles. In some days ago, we can't see any green beetles. At that time, the more of the beetles are the red color. But in this case, the all red color will be disappeared and the green beetles were erased. That erased. In this green, beetles can survive such situation, survive that situation, because attacking from, they were helping, they were survived from the attacking of crops. That is the first stage. And the second is, this is the color variation, and the second is one green is produced, one green is produced, and then number of green will be increased. Number of green will be increased. Number of green will be increased. This is the situation number 1. In this situation is created by other organisms. Created by other organisms. The change in evolution, change in character, change in color in this time. But the number of the organisms reduced and increased. The reduced red beetles and increased the green beetles. So the changes, the difference were occurred by another organisms. If the crow not eating these red beetles, the crow will not eating the red beetles. Suppose, yes, that the answer is red beetles and green beetles are also increased. The number of red and green will be increased. That is the reason. Okay. And then that green beetles have survival of that stage, surviving that stage, that is the advantage one. The advantages of these beetles is the survive and that condition. Okay, and this is the natural selection. This is the natural selection. And the resulting the natural selection is resulting to the adaptation. Natural selection is leading to adaptation. At this time, the green beetles is adaptive for that condition because they can fit in that condition. So in this case, adaptation takes place. Natural selection takes place here. Natural selection. Okay, I will give you just example for just for an example one. Okay, have you heard about the jackfruit tree? Yes, your Malayalis also know. The old Malayalis were knowing about the jackfruit tree. It's some of the huge tree. The jackfruit is produced, and we are using this is the Keralite fruit. Our Kerala's fruit, that is the jackfruit. Okay, official fruit, that is jackfruit. And this jackfruit we will cut in the at mature. They were taking to the maturity, At that maturity time, we will collecting the jackfruit, and we will going to our house, and we will cooking some food items. And the fruiting stage, at that maturity, the fruiting stage, the fruits very sweet. Okay, that is not our matter, but some of the jackfruits are mature, but the matured jackfruit will not repent and not fall into the ground. They were standing in that places and that bud. Some squirrels, crows, and then some organisms, some aves like birds, squirrels. They were eating the jackfruit, and the jackfruit seed, the seed will dispersed in that area. Seed will disperse in that area. That means that is not number in one, more than two. The two or more jackfruit seeds are, yes, jackfruit trees are planting at that time. Look at it. We can see all the plants will not growing to us in the form of not tree. Some of them growing and destroyed. And that means we can take 100 seeds, 100 buds, but one or two plants will arise. Okay, because the plants, the arising plants, the plants are adaptive for that situation. The plants are adaptive for that situation. That is the main point. That is the adaptation. So, the plant is selected. We can see the more than 100, more than 50, more than 20, more than 10 plants are arising in one time, and one or two is continuously starting their growth, and others are destroyed themselves. So that destroyed plants are not fit in that time, in that area, that environment, and others too are arising. The arising plants are adaptive for that condition. That is the adaptation. And destroying and arising, that is the natural selection. We will discuss about the terms are natural selection, adaptations, etc. in these next classes. And next is situation number 2. Situation number 2. Yeah. In that area, there are more than 100 red beetles are present here, and some of beetles are blue in color. Some of them are blue in color, and then reproduce. After reproduction, increasing number of red beetles. Increasing the number of red beetles. Okay. is reproduced and the number will be increased. The bluish number will be increased. That is it. Next situation, the second situation. And in the time, look at that. This is text chart from your textbook. This is red, this is red, this is red, and this is blue. When an elephant came, and the elephant foot is pressing this green field. Elephant foot will pressing this green field. The most of the red beetles are dead because the pressure of the kick of the elephant. So the elephant foot, under the elephant foot, the all of the red beetles will die. Remaining blue will reproduce. The number of blue will be increased. Okay. But the blue is not survive. Why? Yes, the green field. The color of the green field is green. But the arising new organism, that is the blue. So the organisms will have know about the color changes because the cross know that is the beetles. But in the case of green, the cross will not see that green beetles. But in the case of blue, cross knew about that is a beetle. That is a food for the cross. Okay. So the cross can be eat both blue and red. Okay. The cross can be eat both blue and red. Okay. And at the time, the number of red and blues are reduces. Number of population of red and blue beetles were reduced, and the number of red beetles are arising more than blues. Okay. And in the case of the last, what happened in this time? The size of the beetles is very small. Size of the beetles were very small. And the next generation, the red beetles were increased. This is the situations 1 and 2. The situations 1 and 2. Okay. And next is the main point, the acquired and inherited types. Acquired and inherited traits. Okay. After this illustration, we are discussing about this acquired and inherited traits. Okay. Example is, we are looking the tail of the mice. Have you seen the tail of mice? It's a pointed one. It's the longest one, the pointed one. Some scientists experiments with these mice. Have you noticed about it? The monkeys, donkeys, dogs, mice. These are the experimental animals for the vaccination, immunization, vaccination, etc. So the scientists experiments with these mice. They take some mice and cut off their tail and then mating each other within one cage. The resultant mice are with tail. The resultant is with tail. That with the tail, the mice will have the tail. So that is not changes one. That means there is no changes. And some of the organisms have the folding ear lobes that is attached to the face, and some ones are the ear lobes are free. But the next generation, almost 90%, the attached ear lobes produce the next generation. Most of 90% of childs have the attached ear lobes. Okay, this is the examples. And then next is we are discussing about a scientist. He was a voyager, traveler, naturalist, botanist, etc. Within the time period, that is 1809 to 1862. The time period is 1809 to 1862. That voyager name, the scientist, the naturalist, the name is Charles Robert Darwin. In short, we have discussed that name, that is Darwin. In short, we are discussing, the name is Darwin. Yes, he was a voyager. He traveling his own ship, and most of the islands, he visited most of the islands, and he takes some notes, he takes some photos, he takes some pictures and drawings, because he wanted to know about the old organisms. He invented new organisms, new organic organisms culture, etc. So he put forward the theories of the natural selection, that is evolution. But before that, we have discussed the example for the evolution, natural selection, that is jackfruit tree. In the case of jackfruit tree, the old jackfruit seeds is dipped within the soil, and all the plants will arise. Most of the plants will destroy itself. One or two or more, one or three is arising and developing its growing condition. Okay, so we are discussing, we are coordinating that one. The first one, the coordinating first one is, look, the coordinating first one. That means, that is the main example. We have taken that example only, the jackfruit tree. The seeds are developed, number of seeds, we can't count number of seeds are here. So the seeds, the old seeds are arise into a new plant. That is known as the overproduction. Overproduction. Okay, and then the old plants are going to growing. That means they were struggles. They were struggling for taking minerals, water, etc. Taking oxygen, carbon dioxide, etc. Because the plants have no living condition in that time. So what happened? The plants will destroy itself. So the next is struggle for existence. Struggle for existence. Struggle for existence. The old plants will, yes, struggling for the existence. Okay, they were playing. And that the most of the plants will destroy itself, and the remaining one is developed. That is the survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest. That is the survival of the fittest. And what happened in this? That is natural selection. That is natural selection is happened. And then last, that result is the new organisms are formed, the new individual formed. Formation of new individual. New organism. Okay. This is the finding of Charles Darwin. The findings of Charles Darwin. The findings are the overproduction, struggle for existence, and survival of the fittest, natural selection, and the formation of the new species. Okay. And then he noticed about the smallest organisms like earthworm. How earthworm help the increasing of the soil fertility. He observed earthworms' attitude, earthworms' living activities, etc. And he concluded that the soil fertility is increased, or the presence of soil fertility in that area due to the presence of earthworm in actions. Because earthworm is traveling, penetrating to the living soil. So the earthworms making some holes into the ground. The air circulation will happen. And water circulation will happen. So the fertility is increased. The soil fertility is increased at that time. So he noticed and observed earthworm, the fertility of the soil and the role of earthworms. Okay, and then in 19th century, in 19th century. Most of the scientists finding the origin of Earth, origin of life, origin of atmosphere, etc. They were trying to concluding that point. In the 19th century, some of the scientists discussing and finding some more definitions, because the living organisms, the life is originated from simple abiotic materials that will connecting to each other and to form to complex material. That complex material is converted into life. That is the just an idea of that scientist. Okay, in 1929, the two scientists, the scientists' names are JBS Haldane. The scientists are JBS Haldane. The scientist's name is JBS Haldane. He noticed that life must have developed from the simplest inorganic molecule which were present in the earth soon after it was formed. His findings are life must have developed from the simple inorganic molecules from the earth and developed into new organisms. And he discussed about at that time, the condition of the earth. The condition of the earth. They were discussed the condition of the earth at that time, the arising, the developing of living. Have you heard about that folks at that time? Yes, and then the first primitive life, the primitive organism is developed from the chemical synthesis. You noticed about the first organisms is developed from the chemical synthesis. Chemical synthesis. The first organism, the primitive organisms will arise from the chemical synthesis. This is the finding of the JBS Haldane in the year of 1929. And in the 19th century, the scientists discovered the life, the living organisms is made with the simplest organisms. Okay. And then, after some years, the year is 1953. 1953. Two scientists, Stanley L. Miller. One is Stanley L. Miller. Scientist name is, first one is Stanley L. Miller and Harold C. Urey. Second. The two scientists, the scientist names are Stanley L. Miller and Harold Urey. Harold C. Urey. Stanley Miller and Harold Urey. That means Urey and Miller and Urey. in 1953, they were discussing the temperature of the atmosphere of the primitive earth. And then they were finding at that time the earth is covering with ammonia, methane, hydrogen sulfide. At that time, ammonia, methane, hydrogen sulfide, at that time, the Earth's atmosphere is filled with, Earth is covered with ammonia, methane, hydrogen sulfide. These are the gases. There is no possibility, there is no presence of oxygen. There is no presence of oxygen here. Okay. Okay. I just wind up this class. I will discuss this finding of Stanley Miller and Urey and the primitive Earth's the conditions of primitive Earth and natural selection and these evolutions in the next classes. And you just trying for your you just learning and try for your examination and studying very well, and you will take notebook and you finding your own notebook and write the questions and answer in it. You must learning very well and stay safe at your home, and the exam is our head, is in our head. So I just wind up this class. We will see you tomorrow, and then thank you for cooperating with me, and just save your home, and we will see you tomorrow, and till bye.